reminder. So we have Sarah Montague, who just obviously was so nice
Hello.
to give us these. Bring us in these, what is it? Is it sparkling wine? Is that
Yes,
what it's called?
it's 100% Chardonnay, sparkling Méthode Champenoise, and it's from California, and it's delicious, so enjoy.
All right, and Lisa Maria, obviously from Albertsons as well.
Good morning.
So why don't you guys just
I
give a
love that
brief
sound.
reminder to everyone. Oh, there's even a cork.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know. I know.
Super fancy.
Very fancy. It's no twist off like my cap. All right, so you guys just give a brief, another intro of yourselves, just so everyone is reminded, and then we'll get to it.
So I have been in marketing and digital marketing for longer than I care to remind myself, but started out on the agency side. So in London, worked for performance marketing agencies. That's how I got started into digital. And then came over to America in '99, worked for Foot Cone and Belding, running accounts like Kraft. And then went on to run accounts like Quaker and Nike and Volkswagen. And then I came from Chicago to San Francisco. They asked me to open the office. I opened the Digitas San Francisco office. And then I found myself not loving the San Francisco weather and heading up to Napa on a frequent basis. We bought a house there. And then just found myself spending more and more time there, met some really good people, and started my second career in wine. 7 years in wine now. I did the Executive Wine MBA at Sonoma State University, just kind of refresh everything and meet a brand new community. And it's been absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. And Lisa?
Good morning, everyone. So much like Sarah, I actually started on the ad agency side, and I actually do not like that, so I'm so glad to be on the client side. But I actually had a graphic design background, and then I went and got my master's in marketing just because I wanted that balance of visual and verbal communication. So I just feel like that really got me engaged and really excited in the creative world. And so I worked for Target in Minneapolis, and then I went to Sony, and then I've been at Albertsons for about a good 10 years. And let me tell you, I was not expecting to stay in the grocery industry for as long, but for the past 4 years out of the 10, I've been in own brands, which I spoke about briefly yesterday.
All right, well, thank you. And just as I kind of jumped into it, this is obviously, we are the panel that is talking about things that sort of that out of the box kind of thinking. And just from seeing their presentations yesterday, they obviously were doing that. They broke those particular campaigns down more so, but we're going to hear a little bit more about that. And just it's what we've all been talking about. It's all the different testing that everyone's having to do, especially right now. And what sticks, and what doesn't, and then move on to the next. So why don't we start with you again, Sarah? Just some things that you've been testing that you find have been sticking, have been doing well.
Obviously, the connection to music has been really successful for us. We partner with iHeartMedia, and that's been a really great partnership, and we've been able to optimize and add things as they've extended their channels. So it's not just a broadcast radio buy, we have streaming digital, and they have OTT offerings, and then also work with Ground Truth. And so that model has worked really well for us, and what's been great is the longevity of the relationship. And not really kind of running after the next shiny new object. And we're very good about optimizing it. And we've tested a few things in over the years which haven't worked as well. So I'll talk about that in a little bit later. But yeah, we've loved owning some of our content as well. That's been really empowering. So we're not always, I know that Sam had a question for me yesterday about Live Nation. And so we're not always relying on people like Live Nation and having to pay those prices. And it's been a good muscle to build in-house on my team so that they can really feel that they're growing as well. So yeah, music and then owning content and really getting better and better about pushing it out into the digital world, but it's changing all the time.
That is very true. And so now, Lisa, as you say, you're with Own Albertsons, so you have different brands, which is something you weren't too thrilled about when you were asked yesterday. No, but so obviously with different brands, different types of things, you must have to test one that works for one isn't necessarily going to work for the other.
Yeah, that's great. So I would say we are constantly testing and learning, and it's not just necessarily in the media world, but on the loyalty side, it could also be just like what tactics even within the loyalty that's actually working. But it does vary by brand. It does vary by objective, depending if you're trying to gain acquisition, if you're trying to really drive conversion, are you doing upper funnel or lower funnel? I mean, there's so much to think of, I think, when you plan. But definitely testing and learning. I think one of our, kind of going off on the music world, I would say you were on iHeart, but we were on Spotify. In our first year, we were just in audio ads. And we were like, oh, how do we create more of that surround sound, because it made sense for the brand. And so we added video, we added the other ads, we added the playlist, like how do you create a channel that will actually, how do you optimize that for yourself and to create that overall full funnel experience for your shopper? One quick thing though I would say on test and learning is our loyalty program. And if for those that shop, if you're on For You, that's wonderful because you can get obviously additional deals, which is great during inflation and stuff like that. But we are constantly going through brand journeys. How do you make sure you're creating stickiness or loyalty for your shoppers? And let me tell you, the data that we get back is just amazing. Either we're driving transferable demand from a national brand to an own brand, or we're driving acquisition, but we're realizing, okay, for O Organics, they're coming in through produce. Produce category is the gateway into that brand. So how do you take those that shop produce and bring them to cross categories? How do you bring them into the other aisles and where you're available? And likewise for Open Nature and some of our other items. But testing is like, we are always testing and learning. And I met with a few of the vendors, and I'm super excited actually to continue some of that testing.
Well, I want to ask too, because obviously Albertson, I get that you don't have the same, budget or anything that Albertsons has. But you still, I'm assuming, have to answer to them a little bit. So how do you test something and get it past them? Because you need to be fluid with this. You need to be able to test and then, adapt and do what you need to do. Yeah. How are you able to work that out with working with an Albertsons?
Yeah, no, great question. I chuckle because I always encourage my team to be the trailblazers, and we are first to guinea pigs. We always want to do something, in our business unit versus the national marketing team. So we're always, but we have our own budget, and so we're self-funded, to be quite honest. And so, we have the money that we make off of, and but at the same time we are under Albertsons, so we have to make sure that what we do is at the end of the day serving our shoppers. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question actually, but I think it can be tricky finding that balance, but it's at the end of the day you're trying to drive synergies, and it's really important to do what's right for your business, but at the end of the day, we're just, a unit within the greater Albertsons company. So.
Got it.
We actually struggle with doing a lot of kind of micro testing. I'm really trying to optimize use of my working dollars, and so everything I put out into market, I've got to have a really strong bet that it is going to work, or that I'm going to do it in a geographic test. We do quite surgical market by market, DMA by DMA campaigns with the intention of, if that works, then we'll roll it out.
Well, and so talk about that when you are doing these small, and we've heard that a lot with others that I've spoken with, and even in this summit, that if test small first, so to start small, and then you can maybe, then at that point when it's proven, then you either prove it to the powers that be or you prove it to yourself that you can then spread and go more.
Yeah.
So what does that take? When you first are doing that, how do you determine where you're testing? And then what do you need to see from that to then expand it?
Well, it's about, for us, it was about creating baselines because we hadn't done any of these things before. We were like a new company, a new brand. And so the first campaign we did with iHeart was literally one market. and that just created some baselines. We went into it with clear primary and secondary metrics. We went into it with priorities around reach first and then engagement second, because we don't actually need to get a like, a click, or a share to sell the product. They can be a little bit of a vanity metric. You can kind of easily go down that hole of maximizing clicks and searches. So we started off with just one market, and in March of next year we'll be doing I think it's our 8th campaign, and we'll be in 8 markets.
Wow, that's great. How about Lisa? What is saying in terms of testing? What determines where you're going to test, and then what type of KPIs? What are you looking for to know that, okay, this is something we want to expand?
Yeah, geez, it's hard. I'm trying to find kind of a specific project, but we actually do marketing mix model studies, and we're doing it quarterly. And so we are constantly measuring and how do we continue to improve quarter by quarter. And it's not just looking at your standard impressions, but it's really like that overall return on investment. But, you know, we noticed that we weren't doing as much maybe in the influencer side. We also realized we weren't doing much on an audio standpoint. We were doing really well on our digital media and high impact displays, but there was other channels that were actually a better return in terms of just, you know, on ROAS, I guess. So it's hard. I was trying to think of something actually, even signage, right? Like, our stores, I admit, our stores are cluttered with signage, and we've been trying to scale back on that. But it's like, when do you use that signage? You know, is it important for brand transitions? Yeah, if you're brand loyal and you're wondering why it came from this logo to now this logo, I think that would be important. But do you need a signage to drive a promotion? You may not. You may need actually just a little tag, or, you know, it could be something else. So I think it's just really pressure testing. Like, do you really need it? What does it serve for? And at the end of the day, does it, I mean, you guys are all shoppers. So, I mean, do you even want to see that signage? You know, so it's just, it makes you really question, like, you know, if you should even do it at all, to be quite honest. So, I don't know.
So, well, in terms of, no signage isn't a no.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, Sarah, that there was a couple of misses. So talk about why they were and what you learned from that in terms of, you know, then, okay, let's do it this way.
Yeah, and there's like ongoing misses right now as well. Because we're in the music space and we kind of really leaned into that, we were given the opportunity to add podcasting advertising to the mix. And the CPMs on it was so high, we couldn't get the specificity of targeting at the right price. And so even though it kind of makes sense strategically for the rest of the media mix that we lean into, we have pulled out of that, and we won't be doing that again. And then the other piece that we're trying to make work right now is YouTube advertising. Really want to get away from Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. They're just getting more and more expensive and harder to get any data back or any attribution. So we're like testing into YouTube, but again, we're really finding it difficult to get the specificity of audience at the right price. So we haven't figured that one out yet. If anyone else has figured out YouTube advertising, please let me know. Hit me up later.
How about you, Lisa? Any misses for you?
Oh, I'm sure we have a few. I'm sorry, I can't think about that one off the cuff.
Well, I mean, in terms of even just when you talk about launching a new product, like for example, Soleil, when you did that, but any new product that comes in, what is the first thing that you're looking at? And can you, and this reminds me, you said something a little bit earlier, we heard from General Mills that they didn't take from one to the next. You know, that it's like, okay, we're not going to share these customers' information or this data to promote one of their other products. What's your take on that? Are you able to leverage other products to help you get to a new product?
Oh, most certainly. Excuse me. I would say, you know, at Albertsons we have our very defined segmentation. So one brand will fall under a certain segmentation, another brand could fall under another. So I think you start off with, you know, what is your overall brand's positioning and who's your target audience, and then start understanding your product assortment within that and how they can, you know, kind of feed off of each other. Another example is organics, right? yes, you start your gateways into produce, but we also realize a lot of moms, especially when they have newborns, are more health conscious, I would say, because one, they're thinking beyond themselves and for their children, and that right there was a great gateway into our baby category and building out a product assortment for that. So I think you start looking at who's shopping your stores or your brands, and who's your prospect target, and start building a plan that's gonna make sense to bring your brand forward, I guess. So that's how I look at it. In private label, I would say it's, we have another brand, Open Nature, and that's, again, gateways into the meat and poultry side. And it's like, how do you leverage a specific category that can then give you breadth into others? But you learn so much of the people who are shopping, and it's like, okay, they're really looking for free from claims. They really want plant-based items. Yes, they're buying their meat and their protein, but they're actually really looking for minimally processed ingredients. And so then that helps us define what's our next product innovation, or does it make sense within the brand guardrails that we have? So there's a lot. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling.
Well, I want to ask you, Sarah, in terms of, because you mentioned a couple of times yesterday that how scrappy you guys were. So obviously, what are some of the things that you're finding that you're able to get more bang for your buck when you're doing anything, investing in anything, or any particular channels, or leveraging the content you use from the music festivals, or in what way are you able to sort of let that expand a lot more so?
Well, we have our in-house video and production team, which was, I look back on it now, and at the time it was a big ask to hire our own videographer on a team that was only 5 people at the time. And I'm so glad that we did that, because we've really become this massive content beast. And it means that we can be really scrappy, we can be really fast. I think we're trying to kill him on a regular basis, honestly. But there's a really great shorthand with having him part of the team, as opposed to having to go out the house and brief somebody, and do they really get your brand, and having to start from scratch every time. So that has been one of the biggest wins we've had from being scrappy. The other thing is, are there many agencies in the room? I don't know. I'm really glad that we don't work with agencies. I'm really glad that we work directly with the media
This is not
owners.
the view of
They just, it's a lot of work. I feel bad for them too.
and I don't mean partners, right? There's definitely things that we can't do, and we definitely need to partner with, like ad tech. I'm not going to build that in-house, but in terms of a creative partner, we do that in-house, and it means that you have to put the consumer at the table. You have to make sure it's about them, and we're kind of building that skill set in-house, versus I think that you can easily rely on people outside of your organization, and then they're owning the brand. And so I'm glad that we don't do that.
Okay, I want to just ask one final question with you guys, and then we'll open it up to everyone else. Just biggest learnings, really, just what have you learned with the tests that you've done, the things that have not worked, have worked, that you're excited to move forward into for 2023? Please, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say it's okay to fail. It's okay to, but as long as if you do fail, you're taking something out of that. And I think the joys of marketing is you have to constantly evolve, because there's constantly new things. The generation, your children, you can learn so much from your children or your nieces and nephews, and why are they on Be Real? Why are they on this platform versus that platform? And you can test. And yeah, it may not make sense, or you think it may make sense for you, but it may not give you the returns that you were expecting. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again in a year, right? You're untapping in an area that I feel like is so much you can learn on. Either, I shouldn't do static ads. I actually need to create video. They actually want short reels. That's what they want on Be Real. Or what? I'm just throwing that as an example, and I know you can't advertise on that platform yet. But so to me, I feel like you just have to constantly adapt and kind of roll with the punch. Like, you have to be scrappy. Like,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And it's okay if you don't do it right, as long as you're not spending millions of dollars. But
my answer is similar, but it's like a double-edged sword, because I think, there's a lot of strength and value in consistency, and sticking with something, but then optimizing it. So we started our Jam Happy Hour during COVID as a way to create engagement and a touch point. And we started off by doing it like literally 5 days a week. And it was a really, really heavy lift. And we were getting increasingly large audiences and subscribers to it, which was great. But the weight of my team to do that was clearly it wasn't going to be sustainable. But we all kind of held hands and decided we want to keep at it. But we've optimized it in terms of the frequency, the length, the type of artist that we'll have on board, and then added Sweet Relief Musicians Fund to the mix. And so there's been a strength to kind of continuing the program, but at the same time optimizing it and changing it to make the most sense for both the brand strategy, but also the time and resources you have.
yeah, that's great.
Anyone have any questions for us?
Good morning. Love the bubbles. This is Amber with the Key Technologies. Wanted to see your thoughts on connected TV, if you're buying it currently, or really if you're thinking about it, if you're curious about it.
Yes, so we are. We are actually, it's kind of scary because I actually don't know a lot about it and all the in-apps and the whole marketplace. I mean, it's overwhelming. But when your definition of connected TV is actually streaming through a typical broadcast, or are you talking about like YouTube? Because YouTube is considered. Yeah. So I just want to make sure. Okay, right? It's like a huge ecosystem. And I would say, so we're dabbling now in that area, and we're doing it, but we're doing it based off of lifestyle. So in particular, our Open Nature brand skews more, older base, I would say, or millennials. I'm a millennial. But it's understanding the lifestyle, right? So we're going to be on more of the health and sports. We're going to be on news. And that's the target audience that's actually looking for minimally processed ingredients, because as most of us, we're bombarded with claims. We don't know what they mean. But then the younger audience, they grew up with that. They're already conscious, consumers. And so the way I would reach with them on CTV is probably a lot different than I would reach on my organics brand. So I'm sorry, I'm totally rambling, but I would say we are looking into doing that, especially with Open Nature and our Signature Select brand. So I'm super excited. I don't know what kind of results we're going to get, but that is definitely a very heavy area we're going to play in. And I think right now it's known for upper funnel, but I think depending on the engagement, like doing QR codes or something like that, yes, maybe we can start driving some conversion. So we're going to start exploring it. Yeah, great question.
Yeah, we are not in connected TV yet. It's very scary, and I would really need a partner to go into that, because I think to do it right, you're gonna need to know how to personalize and customize and do sequential messaging, and just like throwing a video spot in there isn't gonna really pay out.
Building that internal creative muscle and resources, did you find that it's a challenge to attract top talent versus sort of the agency opportunities that are out there to work on a variety of brands and have sort of that, super fast moving internal creative environment?
Definitely, yeah. The wine industry is interesting. Set your clocks back 30 years. And, there's a lot of people that work for very small wineries that consider themselves marketers and creators, and it wouldn't be a good fit with us. And so we were very lucky to find the people that we've got. But on a similar line, but not on creative, right now I'm trying to hire a media planner. to join the team, and it's proving very difficult because we're not embracing fully remote working. Our culture is, we're hospitality, and so we like to be with each other, and we would do hybrid, but everybody wants remote, and you can get much better talent if you're willing to do remote. But yeah, the talent is really tricky, and COVID, some of those times when you were like looking to employ people during COVID, and there was just, the talent pool was so thin. But yeah, it is definitely a challenge.
But the mimosas help.
Definitely.
We have mimosas every day. Come join us.
I was going to ask if either of you have like a 70, 20, 10, or 75, whatever, like tried and true investment, like new content mediums, innovation. You actually set something, and what percent of budget is going to be new?
We do not. No, I really want everything to like work as hard as it possibly can all the time, and when it fails, it's really painful. And I look at the metrics that we're reporting to the executive team and the CEO, and I'm like, damn, now I've got to do something that's going to work twice as hard.
So we do actually. It's small percentage. Well, actually, it depends on the brand. It depends on our budget. But we do, because we just recently for organics, actually, we tested to be on Upworthy, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's very editorial. It's really based on humanity, and it just seemed to fit one of our brands. And we will continue to run with them, and that was something new for us. Now, can we optimize it? I know I said failed earlier, but it's like, exactly. But can we optimize it? Can we have better content? Does it make sense to maybe, add additional editorial content versus just the one that we did? So we definitely budget out. I wouldn't say we budget out an extreme amount, but enough where we feel like, what does a success look like for us? And is that going to be a win? Because I'm trying to set myself and my team up and our brands up for success just as much as making it successful for the vendor who's willing to test. So we really have to lean on each other to make sure, like, are these the right points? Are this the right channel? Is this the right thing that we want to do for the brand?
Yeah, and you can learn a lot when you do something and you realize, oh, this isn't scalable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I even wasting my time? This is just too heavy a lift. We did an activation with a publisher for some native content, digital, and it was such a painful process to get our brand messaging into the piece. And some of our voice, because they were pushing back really hard. No, this is our environment. It's got to come from our voice. And there's no way that we could do this over and over again. It was taking up too much time. We didn't get the bang for our buck.
Okay, I think we need to call it there and get our next panel up. So first, give a nice round of applause. Sarah and Lisa, thank you.